as you said, the classic Arceus Inteleon from Lucas, where you have a powerful foundation, great search and utility with Inteleon, and then you've got some tricky stuff in there just to tech for the metagame for any particular situation, and just slowly but surely grind your way through every single other matchup.
Yeah, as you saw the two key cards there, especially this matchup, the Arceus V-Star and the Galarian Zapdos. Zapdos is the best card to be able to counter Arceus V-Star. Usually stopped by Dunsparce, but there's a card missing from Lucas's deck, and it is Dunsparce. Dunsparce is nowhere to be found, and this is going to potentially let Zapdos run free, but only time will tell as the prize cards coming out. Oh,
couple
Sobble in the play. And Zigzagoon as well could be a pretty big deal. Nothing too crazy over on Lucas's side. Just has a few search cards there. And I'm eager to get into this. We're going to be seeing plenty of Arceus V-Star throughout the weekend. Why not kick it off now and get our first Arceus match out of many out of the way. Here we go. Round number 5 between these players. Who will advance to 5-0 and who will have to battle it out at a lower record throughout the rest of the event. And Aidan's going to have an advantage starting and already has that double turbo energy to attach.
Beautiful. Turn 1 Arceus setup with the attachment is so important for this deck. I know after spectating and casting so much Palkia, having that, that Star Portal to just get the energies into play whenever you need them. When it comes to Arceus, it's much more important to have that natural energy attachment to threaten the V-Star evolution into that Trinity Nova.
Yep, typical stuff here from Aidan. Quick balling to find some cards. I think it's interesting to see when Aidan wants to play that Zapdos down. If you play it down too early, your opponent can just utilize Boss's Orders and take a knockout onto a Pokemon. And if you use it too late, well, you got to remember Path to the Peak also shuts that card off. And there are Path to the Peak over in Lucas's deck. Lucas is running 2 copies of that, things we've seen as well. And the one stadium card that's not relevant in this matchup, but I gotta say it's Dyna Hill Tree, or Dyna Tree Hill rather. Sorry, I'm not very familiar with this card, but I do know that it prevents all Pokemon from healing, and it's in here to stop U2V Union from using that attack to heal itself up. Typical stuff from Aidan understands. My Arceus is a no threat. Attach pass, get a Sobble down.
A Rangaroo. A nice little card. I remember when Oranguru was like the be-all, end-all, like just the ability to have that extra card, set something up ahead of time with the Primate Wisdom. It gave you a little bit of resiliency against a Marnie play, right? So here we go, Lucas doing the combo right away. You've got the Primate Wisdom into Marnie, your hand goes on the bottom, and you still get to maintain that important card.
Yeah, and Aidan also hasn't given away any real deck information. For all Lucas knows, Aidan's just playing Arceus Inteleon, so by benching another V Pokemon, it's going to mean that Aidan has a route to take a knockout on Zapdos, just needs to utilize Raihan. I believe there was one in the prize cards, though, and that is always something you've got to notice. But there is the Arceus V-Star, and Starbirth is online. We've seen how this deck just allows itself to be consistent, and hey, Drizzile as well may not even need to be utilized this turn.
Both players just working on getting a foundation. We know that this is going to be, for the most part, a slower matchup at first, because in the first game, both players are trying to keep their techs and their spice a little bit close to the chest, just so that you can have maximum use of any surprise factor that those cards will produce. But here we go, just a level ball, getting Professor's Research as well. A lot of just strong setup with these decks, especially again with Marnie kind of reducing in popularity. You can take these sort of winding turns of setting up and setting up and setting up to have more explosive turns, 2 or 3, turns into the future. We've seen these players really, really plan out their sequences.
Yeah, and I think Aidan really wished that Galarian Zigzagoon was there. If the Galarian Zigzagoon is there, Aidan can utilize Starbirth to find the Boss's Orders and Choice Belt, and then from there, put himself in a spot to just take a knockout on this Arceus and power up this bench Zapdos to pretty much put himself almost in a checkmate scenario as soon as the second turn of the game. But since Zigzagoon is prized, it means this Arceus will not deal enough to knock out the opposing Arceus V. Research as well to draw some more cards, but Aidan understands, hey, Fighting Instinct is a great ability. It allows me to attack for up to a single fighting energy, but hey, I know you play Path. I know there's going to be times where I can't utilize it fully. I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way, get 3 to 4 energy on there and start swinging with Thunderous Kick.
Beautiful. Finds the heavy ball, so now can get that final piece out of the prizes.
There it is.
So there's the Zigzagoon. The pieces are falling back into place, Ethan. Even with the bird out of the bag, Aidan still maintaining the threat level here.
Yeah, and the fact that heavy ball is there means that now the play we mentioned is there right away. Has the Arceus V-Star, has the double turbo energy on the previous turn, and this means that Starbirth can grab a basic energy if needed and the Choice Belt. Zigzagoon plus Choice Belt means that it will deal just enough damage to knock out this Arceus V while powering the Zapdos out. What a big time play. It's all possible to Starbirth. One of the best V-Star powers we've seen thus far. Grabbing 2 cards almost feels broken in a sense. It feels like, hey, this is really, really good.
Yep, finds the energy, finds the belt. Those are just going to immediately come from the Starbirth directly onto the Arceus V-Star.
Yeah, and this is the exact perfect play. I don't think Aidan could have drawn this up better. Has everything needed. The fighting energy in deck can grab 3 basic energy, throw them onto the Zapdos. Has an Arceus already dealing massive damage with this Choice Belt, 210 damage while accelerating. Lucas also lost the energy attachment for a turn, so now Lucas needs to utilize a Melanie if he wants to attack. Otherwise, the best that can happen is a DTE and a Trinity Nova, and that's not going to be enough, especially when your opponent can pretty much find a way to knock this out again.
With such different supporting casts with the Arceus, it's really hard to view this as a direct mirror match, but at the end of the day, the Arceus V-Star is still a premier attacker. It's still the pillar that the rest of the deck is built around. And so the same rules still apply, where you can jump out ahead of your opponent with a key attack, and with the Arceus V not having access once again to that star portal to get a bunch of energy out of the discard pile to get those attacks, it's much harder for you to come back when you fall behind. It's so important to have the Arceus V into the Arceus V so you have that consistent line of powered up attackers. It looks like we're just able to get it together, as you said, Ethan, with the Melanie and the attachment, the double turbo energy, and now the evolution. We have another Arceus V. So Lucas just barely hanging in there, being able to keep up the attacker chain, just doing some quick math. Can I take down this Arceus V-Star? Still needs a few more tools to make it happen.
Yeah, you're at least being able to attack. You can deal Trinity Nova, accelerate some more energy, but you're pretty much looking here and saying, my Arceus is getting knocked out this turn, and there's nothing I can do. And the fact that Aidan still has access to shady dealings on multiple Pokemon, on the Sobble and the Drizzile, means that there are options to even try to buff the Zapdos out, maybe get another attacker powered up. Aidan's in an excellent spot, and you can see Lucas maybe thinking to himself, what if I just played Dunsparce in my deck? I would be in such a better spot here if I could just ignore the Zapdos entirely, the threat of this Pokemon.
So now we just need a scoop up net for this Zigzagoon, get the ping, and just do a repeat of that previous turn. Get another knockout. Here comes the Drizzile, gonna look for it again.
Yeah, this is most likely gonna grab the Cape of Toughness, and this is gonna make the Zapdos pretty much unable to be knocked out in one hit. There's no way to remove tool cards or shut tool cards off, no tool jammer. Luca's really just playing Big Charm in the deck to buff up these Arceus, but you can make the Arceus as buff as you want. 340 is more than enough to take this knockout.
Beautiful. Another energy further retreat, gonna bring up the Zapdos. Has that thunderous kick. I think the first fighting Pokemon that came out of the woodwork to start punishing the Arceus was indeed the Galarian Zapdos V.
Yeah, it existed before the Arceus even. It was just there, and
then it just somebody dug it up out of the pile and said, you know what? This fighting weak Pokemon has been all over the place. What can I use?
Yeah, I think the only real play this card saw before Arceus was against Eternatus VMAX to be able to do the same thing. But once Eternatus stopped seeing play, then it kind of just sat in the bulk drawers for a little bit. But you know, Lucas has got to play to the outs, got to play as best as possible, does have shady dealings in Teleon, and there you can see the Roxanne path play, or Roxanne scoop up net. You know what? If there's a Roxanne, there's a way. That's my quote. That's what I got to say on that. Roxanne can just disrupt, put the hand down low size. We've seen in the past ace trainers to put card hand sizes down low. And there's another option. They're all possible. Roxanne has been introduced into the format as a great disruptive option late game and makes things interesting as we wind down to these final couple of turns.
One point that we mentioned earlier was how these Inteleon decks just grab all their resources out. They get really greedy. They put everything in the hand because they're planning 2 or 3 turns in advance. And then that Roxanne comes back out and says, put everything back in the deck. And now everything that you were planning to do is off the table. And we'll see if this final top deck can make you grasp victory. I've seen some lines, Ethan, of players just even going for that desperate boss's orders on something that's very hard to retreat to try to buy a few turns. And, you know, the Roxanne path is just the evolution of that play. A nice pivot to lock down your opponent for a time. And here it is. We'll see it now.
Yeah, there's the Roxanne. Melanie was played the previous turn. Roxanne can be played this turn. There's the path to the peak. So this will be able to shut off the abilities. The Zapdos will still need an energy now to attack as long as that Stadium card stays in play. Aidan is running 2 copies of Training Court. We haven't seen any of those come down. That will guarantee most likely the attack because it will put the Fighting Instinct ability back online.
2 cards.
And,
yeah, it always looks so horrifying when you see that. The player just has 2 cards and 1 more top deck to see if we can seal the deal on this game.
If Aidan has the Stadium card, the game is just over. Do we see the energy of the Stadium? And there's the level ball. Level ball, as long as the Drizzile is still available, can grab the counter Stadium to grab Training Court, and that will be all she wrote. Let's see if it's in there. Believe none were prized. And there it is. Drizzile,
beautiful.
Go ahead and find Energy Search or the Training Court, and that will be the game. Aidan's going to go up 1-0.
1-0, very clean. The Galarian Zapdos V doing what it's in the deck to do to punish these Arceus decks, especially here in game 1 when your opponent doesn't quite know what you're up to and it's at its maximum effectiveness. It's able to take this first game, and this is just another beautiful example of how momentum is so important here in the Swiss rounds.
Yeah, an interesting thing to note about Aidan's deck, which I think is so cool, 25 one-ofs. That is as close to the Urshifu deck we saw back back that some of the team members from the Europe ended up bringing to take down a regional. Also performed very well at EUIC. 25 one-ofs.
I do remember
so many
that
basic,
Urshifu
so many
deck,
basic energy types too. It's playing Fighting, Fire, Lightning, Water, and Dark Energy, plus the double turbo. There's so many different things. It feels like a rainbow. This deck has an array of plays that it can make.
So many different options is what you need for a metagame as diverse as this. There's always the double-edged sword of, is my deck too diverse? We've seen players get very cheeky in the past of having, 2 or 3 different types of attackers, and then in the matchup where you need it, that attacker or the energy you need for that attacker is prized. Hisuian Heavy Ball really takes a lot of the sting out of those sorts of deck building options, and with that vintage energy search, you're able to make those miracles happen.
Listen, I think arts have a tendency to draw better. You know what I'm saying, man? If I'm playing a cool art, if I'm playing like my favorite, like a gold Ultra Ball, I'm like, listen, that's got to be what it is. Regardless, though, prize cards are pretty relevant for Aidan. Does prize the Shady Dealings Inteleon.
Raikou in there.
There is only one of those in play. Raikou and Moltres, 3 of the tech Pokemon. Not the Zapdos prize, no Fighting Energy prize. So that is a big-time relief for Aidan.
That's all you need.
Yeah, we're getting things kicked off. Lucas will, of course, be starting the game with a level ball. And we said this time and time again, getting set up is so key on the first turn of the game. A lot of these ball cards we have access to, like Level Ball and Quick Ball, are played in such high counts in respective variants because you want to consistently find these Pokemon. We've seen decks struggle when they don't get down Sobble turn 1 or Arceus turn 1. There's all things you need to do. A simplistic card like this, there's no surprise to anybody that's played in so many different decks.
And sometimes in the Arceus V mirrors, even if you have a slow turn 1, your opponent is still susceptible to that exact same slow turn 1. But Aidan has this more aggressive slant to the deck, wanting to attack, especially with the threat of that Zapdos. And so Lucas having a slow turn is going to be a much bigger detriment here. And there is no turn 1 attachment. We just have the Arceus and the Sobble. So already Aidan has a massive window of opportunity here to jump out in game number 2 and close this out once again.
Yeah, as you mentioned, no turn 1 attachment is such a big deal. And Aidan kind of right away says, look, I've got the Arceus and I've got the attachment. I'm doing all I want. And Aidan understands, what else do I need to do this turn? I've got Level Ball and Arceus V-Star in hand. I think I'm chilling right now at this point. So yeah, actions on Lucas. Again, with Melanie in the deck, the potential is there to still utilize Trinity Nova this turn. However, the pieces are going to have to be there. There's going to probably have to be a way to Drizzile. There's going to have to be a way to discard Water Energies. And most importantly, find the double Turbo Energy. Or you've got to rely off the 3-draw Melanie. And that's when things can get scary.
Even just having the, the Arceus V with the attachment already puts you so far ahead. But already fishing out the Melanie with the Drizzile. Has more ball cards, as you said, trying to get this strong foundation set up, but we still need an attacking threat. If this Arceus V goes down, you lose out on the ability to get that energy power up.
Yeah, it looks like there might be 1 card short at this point. You can find the Arceus V-Star, and then from this point, you don't have Water Energy or a way to discard cards, so you may have to go for something like Water Energy Quick Ball, and then hope that you can draw into the double Turbo Energy. And when you're against a matchup that's this risky, you kind of have to play this aggressive and this risky yourself because
the big gamble is here. the quick ball to get rid of the water energy. Quick ball finding Arceus V, and now Melanie going to be employed here to put that water energy back into play and try to keep this going. We did see the double turbo in the hand, so hopefully it can come together.
Yeah, it's going to be a big ask, though, for Lucas. Lucas is not playing that many copies of Double Turbo Energy. You really don't need to when you have to search out. Actually, no. Very interesting. It's playing 4 Double Turbo Energy, so it just depends on variance, and that is 0 copies of Double Turbo Energy. Unless it's in the hand, I didn't quite see it, but I don't think it is.
I think there was one in the hand.
Oh, is there? Maybe there is, actually. Was it hiding from? Oh, it was hiding from.
Thank goodness. Okay,
yeah,
so it does come
this
through.
Makes more sense. And wow, Pat's the peak, too. That's a big-time grab. That means Aidan's Starbirth is now turned off. All these Arceus variants will usually find a way to do this. Say, hey, I want to use Starbirth, and once I'm done, I'm tapped out on abilities here. I don't want you to have any. I'm good. I'm good.
And now without Starbirth, you know, it is harder for Aidan to actually find those aggressive pieces. Can't find the Zapdos plus the fighting energy. We need the Arceus V-Star at least to get some damage down onto the Arceus, but there it is. Drawing cards, a little bit of options in the hand, but has to figure out what to do here. Not really much going on.
Yeah, it does have access to level ball for Drizzile. This can find the stadium. The Arceus is already in the hand, so the options are there.
Okay, so the question is, it doesn't really matter when you bump the stadium until you need to use the Starbirth, right? So
yeah, that's also the point. The fact that Lucas only runs 2 paths as well, and most Arceus, Aidan can make an assumption that there's probably 1 to 2 paths at peak. Very rare chance there's 3, especially after seeing that first game that path wasn't coming down as frequently.
Yeah,
that you could say, hey, I'm going to win the stadium war if I put down this counter stadium. If you play path again, I can put training court in play, and I'll have abilities for the rest of the game. So at this point, you can kind of confidently play down the training court and say,
okay,
all right, I just got to find my other one later on in the game, and I need to utilize Starbirth this turn, because if I'm not attacking, I'm not doing anything. And this actually makes me wonder what cards Aidan would like to grab. Double Turbo is going to be a given to be able to utilize Trinity Nova, but do you try to dig for the Zapdos? Do you guarantee the Zapdos? Do you guarantee a follow-up for the following turn? There's options are limitless with Arceus, and especially when you have Inteleon too, sometimes the choices become overwhelming.
But it looks like the Zapdos is being eyed. I know a lot of players really dislike when they have to use the Starbirth like this just to kind of keep up with their opponent. You'd rather use it when you're already ahead, and you're just like, well, now I've sat on this powerful ability the entire game, and I'm just going to find the boss's orders for game. But here we go. The Zapdos is set up here.
Yeah, so opting to, instead of grabbing Double Turbo Energy, get the Raihan, it seems, instead of the... yeah, I am the Raihan. Can utilize that, but the problem really with this
many different options being eyeballed for the Starbirth. As you said, Ethan, there's just so many different lines that you have to analyze here, especially in the game number 2, 33 minutes left on the clock. If this goes to a game 3, you know, it could get pretty dicey.
Yeah, we are going to see the energy search get played. It's going to grab the fighting, and it will get pitched away with that quick ball. There's no energy in the discard pile right now, so we are going to see Raihan come out after this. And yeah, I mean, you don't attach Double Turbo Energy. The benefit to attaching Double Turbo Energy later on is that it fulfills the Zapdos attack requirement as well. It does attack for a fighting and 3 colors with Thunderous Kick. The con is that you deal 20 less damage, and that puts you at 150. So it plays around with some math with Big Charm, so that is something to notice. Cape and Toughness comes down. Raihan's there. Listen, Zapdos is going to be powered up this turn because the Raihan can find the Double Turbo Energy for turn. Trinity Nova can accelerate. And while you're not knocking out this Arceus, while you're not really putting on too much pressure, you are setting up the Zapdos, and that is the most important thing in this matchup.
The Arceus V-Star decks, this is their hidden strength, is having to consistently get attacker after attacker powered up. It's so hard to get into a truly dominant position because they always seem to have something else to pivot to.
Yeah, Aidan's been piloting this deck really, really well. Has been just taking lines that I wouldn't even expect to take the power up. Like most players would say, oh, well, I need DT this turn, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab the DT off the Starbirth. No, wants to utilize the Raihan to get extra energy to play because no supporter was played and put the DT on the active. That's just true class to Aidan's play so far. Lucas has also been playing it, but it's just more of a streamlined deck. There's not as much variance. Your game plan is the same, and when you run into a roadblock matchup like this, there's not much else you can do. You really got to turn the gears in your head and say, do I get aggressive? And Lucas looks like was eyeing up boss's orders with that. Maybe understands, if I don't hit into the Zapdos before you do, I'm not winning this game. I think Lucas has identified the correct way. Limit the usability of the Zapdos. Say, I know you're going to guarantee take 2 prize cards with this. At least let it be into something that's highly damaged.
Yeah, Arceus and Inteleon, a famously reactive deck. It can include a lot of tech cards because the Inteleon engine gives you such consistent access to them. But when you go into a matchup, as you said, Ethan, that you don't have that special tech card for, no Dunsparce in this case, you have to think on your feet. And here's the aggressive pivot normally from a deck that wants to play a lot slower and more reactive, is now taking control of the game with this boss's orders, bringing up the Zapdos and putting a little bit of damage on it.
Yeah, this is definitely relevant for sure. You're able to attack into the Zapdos. It's going to take 180 damage. It will be knocked out next turn by multiple threats. You even see the energy on the Drizzile potentially signaling that as a potential play. Aidan says, look, that's damaged. I want to knock that out regularly. I'm going to boss's orders right back at you and take out your benched Arceus. Doesn't matter if you V-Star Evolve. It's not like VMAXs. It's still worth 2 prizes. That's good enough for me.
Was thinking about putting down the Manaphy. Just goes ahead and commits that, gets the knockout. 2 prize cards taken. Aidan now working into a dominant position. Still plenty of time left in the round. Aidan's feeling pretty good. Has the main attacker here with the Zapdos. And again, the Arceus to pivot to. Has a big damage target in play. Lucas, meanwhile, going into the shady dealings in Inteleon, trying to find some resiliency. Has the Pal Pad. And what was that? Just grabbed the Charon's Care.
Yeah, Charon's Care can pick this up and go into that Inteleon. And now Aqua Bullets. So Aidan smartly benching the Manaphy, signaling that, or understanding that, hey, the energy's there. There's a high chance that it's going to want to go after this Inteleon. And there's no real threat to this Arceus as things stand, unless there's something like a Big Charm potentially, or a way to evolve it. So Inteleon coming down, that's a great thing. You get a nice attacker to deal some damage, and while you're at it, might as well grab 2 trainer cards out of your deck.
One of the best plays this deck can make is having that Arceus V-Star be damaged and then have that Charon's Care to scoop it up and heal that damage back. You're negating your opponent's turn, especially if it's a sort of combo-centric deck that spent a lot of resources to just get some damage and negate that. It's really a sight to behold. And look, another Pal Pad, putting that back in the deck. And it looks like Lucas, rather than, now that this Zapdos has been damaged, it looks like this threat is basically neutralized now, is going back to the standard style of, okay, now I'm just going to start out healing all of your damage and then slowly but surely taking down everything on your bench until I get the right amount of prizes at some point.
Yeah, and that Pal Pad is big as well. Lucas only plays 1 copy of Melanie, and if this Inteleon is knocked out this turn, we'll need a way to power up that benched Arceus. So bringing that back with Pal Pad, definitely a big time find for Lucas. Aidan has this lined up to take the knockout. Inteleon currently 190 HP. Zigzagoon will do the exact 10 damage needed to get this knockout. Now Trinidova dealing 180, just enough to take a knockout onto this Inteleon. And Lucas is going to be on the back foot to get an attacker powered up. And oh boy,
Ooh.
it's its first time coming down. It's everyone's favorite Pokemon, Charizard, in that shiny Radiant version, able to deal huge damage with Combustion Blast. And now it's just another threat that Aidan has on the board saying, hey, look, if you knock this out somehow, or if you take another prize card, my Charizard can deal 250 to you for 1 Fire Energy, and that is a scary threat to deal with.
Yeah, the Fire Energy is already found, already set up. And Arceus, as I said, its specialty is having repeated attacking threats all prepped and ready to go as soon as that first Arceus goes down, that floodgate opens up, the next attacker comes roaring off of the bench to take those final KOs. But the Melanie is indeed found, again, thanks to the Pal Pad. And drawing 3 cards, trying to keep it going here.
Yeah, I want to see if there's double Turbo Energy, but no, there is. Yep, the back card
At the very
there.
back.
Yeah, it seems like Lucas's double Turbo Energies are eluding our eyes on where they are, but you see Aidan trying to read. What card is that?
What is that Dyna?
It is the Dyna G. Listen, I may have to read that card too. I know a lot about the Pokemon trading card game, but there are some stadium cards that I don't quite know what it does, so I can't blame him, but I wonder if Lucas got any usage out of that so far. Mewtwo V Union, the same. I'm comfortable, plays down a Tree Hill down. It just happens.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see exactly how that goes, but it's certainly, as you said, a very cute tech. The Pokemon TCG offers a lot of dastardly options that you can trick out your deck with to help out in these really nebulous matchups you wouldn't be able to win otherwise.
Yeah, looks like the Inteleon that was scoop up netted will grab another scoop up net, and thus begins the process of shady dealings, scoop up, shady dealings, scoop up, rinse and repeat. It's interesting to look as well at Lucas's deck because most lists are playing 2 scoop up net, and Lucas has gone with the same thing. So the fact that you can utilize scoop up net on Inteleon, can't stress that enough, so important. Finding the DTE and the Melanie will mean that Lucas pretty much will put himself in the position to hit this Arceus, and as long as this Arceus just gets hit, there's no way for this to get knocked out besides the Radiant Charizard. And you know what Radiant Pokemon hate the most? Path to the Peak.
Their abilities are shut off as rule box Pokemon, so now Charizard is going to have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get energy accelerated onto it, or that next stadium needs to be grabbed, as you said, to win that stadium war, get the final say in the matter, especially now with that Dynatree Hill.
Wow, yeah, and this hand is looking very poor off of whatever pieces. I mean,
there's the scoop up net, re-bench on the Sobble.
Yeah, the Inteleon was just to the right of the prize cards. If that was taken, that would have been a big time grab. I think those would have been all the pieces Aidan needed, just the counter stadium and a way to really get a choice belt on, but that's not going to be possible anymore. Yeah, I mean, the question now is, do you just attack and hope that you can find the modifier next turn, or your play is, it really just Aidan's in a tough spot now. It seems so controlling throughout that game, but Lucas's ability to pace with boss's orders coming in clutch here.
Aidan does have a lot of, versatility in the list, has that same flexibility of any Arceus Inteleon deck, but when you're playing against a classic list like this, right, the Arceus V with the pure Inteleon engine, you aren't just having to solve the current board state or try to map the prizes here. You're playing against the entire deck all at once, it seems. And so your opponent can put so many different angles of pressure on you. And right now, Aidan is starting to kind of crumple under the pressure. Like the second path to the peak is actually getting a couple turns now of value, slowing Aidan down, giving Lucas a bigger window of opportunity to get a better foothold in the game. 3 prizes remaining for both players, 24 minutes left in the round. If Lucas is able to bring this to a game 3, he's got his work cut out for him. But Aidan right now still struggling to close out on the second game. Started out with a great advantage, but now the wind really coming out of his sails.
Yeah, that's a big-time grab, though. Finds the Sharon's Care yet again. Heals all the damage off that benched Arceus, or off that damaged Arceus in the active. And now Lucas will take 2 prize cards and pretty much put Aidan on a clock. Says, hey, you have 1 turn to figure this out. What is the top deck? It's Bird Keeper, so that can at least draw some more cards.
Okay.
Not horrible. Does have access to a single Shady Dealings, but the question is, do you really want this Charizard in the active anyways? So do you wait to see what you get off the Bird Keeper? Do you just try to find everything you need off this? It looks like Aidan really thinks, hey, maybe I'm just going to try to draw cards this turn and get there. Actually, I believe it's there. If the Raihan is there, oh no, I don't think it has Raihan, and still at 3 prize cards, actually 2. Yeah. It feels like Aidan was able to just take so much with Zapdos, but Zapdos was really only able to just take 1 knockout.
The Zapdos came through. It did heavy lifting in the first game, but the second game, Lucas was prepared for it, immediately, brought it up with the boss's orders, got that damage down on it. We need this path to the peak to get out of the way so that Charizard's ability can kick in, so we can drop this 250 damage.
Yeah, and it looks like there's no way to put a Pokemon into play that has less than 180 HP. I mean, you hit the Arceus down into play too, but your opponent has Inteleon in hand. They've shown it with the scoop-up net. Aidan understands that. We're going to go to game 3. We've got 20 minutes left, plenty to finish up. We're seeing the battle of the Arceus variants. I don't know which one's going to come out on top. They both seem to be strong.
We've seen now what both decks can do in response to one another, where Aidan can get these aggressive starts, can get these attackers powered up, has a bunch of different angles of attack, but Lucas can sometimes slow down those options, and if Aidan doesn't get, we see, the sort of implication, if you don't get that big one-hit KO, the Sharon's Care is so devastating to have that work canceled out. And then slowly but surely, the Arceus Inteleon deck can take 1 prize here, 2 prizes there, and suddenly you're about to lose. And seemingly, you just look down at the board state and say, how did I even get to this position?
Things can snowball very quickly with these Arceus decks. There's a lot of potential they have. I feel like Aidan's deck, too, has a lot. And you see Lucas's deck did exactly what it wanted to do. Once Zapdos was out of the picture, all Lucas had to do was attack and play Sharon's Scare, and when you're trading back and forth and you get to heal damage every turn and your opponent doesn't, and you're both attacking with the same Pokemon, it's pretty clear who's going to win. Lucas taking that game pretty convincingly, I think, now understands after that first game, hey, I couldn't deal with the Zapdos right away. Now, in this game, I'm able to do a lot more. And having some mulligans as well, it looks like, as prize cards will go out for Lucas at minimum. Boss's Orders in the prize cards at Drizzile and Arceus, nothing too crazy. Be interesting to see what pieces are in Aidan's prize cards. So far, Aidan hasn't really prized anything too relevant. I think the Shady Dealings was the biggest piece, but nothing like the Zapdos or the Fighting Energies as well. That could definitely skew things up. If you can grab the Zapdos out of the prize cards with the Hisuian Heavy Ball, sure. But if the Fighting Energies are in there, you can't attack with Zapdos. You can get rid of as much colorless energy in that attack as you want, but you're still gonna have to pay for that fighting.
And with, as we head into this third game, I do definitely want to give a big shout out to Lucas's timing with the Path to the Peak, right? It's just an extra roadblock, an extra speed bump in the way of Aidan, fulfilling his game plan. And I like, again, it's a card that when you play it at just the right time, its power is so amplified. And we're going to open up here with Sobble v. Sobble, game number 3, Swiss round number 5 of the World Championships. These players are going to throw everything they have left at the tank down on this game to close out and maintain their flawless winning records here.
Yeah, this hand looks great for Aidan, but it's missing a key piece, the energy attachment for turn, and that's really what Aidan's deck tries to do. The only way it can accelerate energy that is on an attack that's not Tree Nova is utilizing that Raihan supporter card, but you can only play that if Pokemon gets knocked out, and nothing's really going to be taking a knockout on this next turn unless Arceus, for some reason, gets aggressive and tries to take some knockouts with Power Edge.
So here is the Quick Ball. Has to really agonize over what to discard for. It gets rid of the Scoop Up Net. And still digging through, we've seen some players try to go for a double Sobble setup if their hand is very Drizzile heavy, but Aidan has to go for the Arceus. This deck is much more dependent on getting those power-up attackers set up and playing for tempo. And so Arceus has to come down, and in situations like this where you just have to pray that everything kind of falls into place, it can get quite hairy.
Yeah, things can definitely get complicated. Is able to get down a few Sobble. Interesting attack options as well. Does play the Rowlet. We haven't really talked about that. Lucas is not playing Manaphy, so if multiple Sobbles come down into play and you need an extra turn off like this to attach some energies and get things powered up, that could be a key piece to notice out. I don't think Aidan has revealed at all that Rowlet's there, and if you're Lucas, you've always got to be on edge in this matchup saying, okay, I had no clue my opponent was playing with the Charizard. Maybe I saw Fire Energy, so I could sort of assume, but that's a shocker to me. I don't even think Lucas knows what dark Pokemon Aidan is playing so far.
Yeah,
that
we
hasn't
haven't
been
seen
revealed
that yet either.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of potential options. The Level Ball does grab the Sobble, so listen, Rowlet is a great Pokemon, a great feathery boy. So anytime that Rowlet can shine is a time that I'm happy.
I mean, the Rowlet Wind Shard, having that, again, that big damage that you can throw onto something on the bench to cut off a Sobble. We've seen how devastating that can be in certain board states when your opponent's relying on that Drizzile to find that missing piece to convert to that next attack or that next combo that they need is, a huge, devastating threat. It's a big blow to their setup, but now we're just right back over to Aidan. Both players pretty slow in terms of setup, but a slow start favors Lucas massively.
Yeah, but Lucas also missed the turn 1 attachment as well, so things are pretty much set back to even. However, Lucas does have Melody to accelerate, but this is what you want to see, especially when you miss this yourself. And there's the Drizzile. I think we might be seeing this play. Let's see if the Bird Keeper combination of cards is there. Does find the Level Ball and the Rowlet. Okay,
baby.
Here's Sky Circus can go online, and Sky Circus can ignore the energy requirements in the Rowlet's attack cost. Let's see if there's another way to get Bird Keeper into play, or if it's just in the hand. And there it is, that beautiful full art Bird Keeper, switching in the Rowlet, drawing 3 cards. Wind Shard is available to be used for 0 energy. Let's see, does Aidan find a way to get an energy attachment? And there it is, has the Arceus V-Star and the attachment. Aidan has bounced back extremely well after missing that turn 1 attachment.
Beautiful play indeed. Everything is set up and back online, and now it's just a matter of how can I solidify this advantage? We saw before you can have an early start, but if you can't convert, the Sharon's Care is going to start negating your hard work. The Wind Shard comes through, snipes that Sobble, and now Lucas is a very bare board indeed. No energy attachment. Drizzile going to try to put a Band-Aid on the situation, but if Aidan now with the Arceus V-Star can get that Starbirth up and running, find the remaining 2 pieces you need to get another big attack through, Lucas is going to fall way too far behind to even put up any sort of threat here in game number 3.
Yeah, Lucas is going to have to put together a similar play that we saw the game before. Find Arceus V-Star, Starbirth for the cards needed, utilize Melanie, and then attach the double Turbo Energy for turn. It's going to be a little bit harder, though, with one less Sobble to evolve into Drizzile to utilize that Shady Dealings, but already has the scoop up net. And you see with the Arceus V that just got bench being promoted, Lucas is pretty much signaling, hey, I may need to search for a double Turbo Energy and use Trinity Charge instead.
Yeah, to get the Arceus V-Star powered up. Quick Ball also being employed here, has to discard the Sharon's Care, which is fine, of course, because of Pal Pad. And getting those 2 cards indeed. Oranguru also going to see 1 more card.
Yeah, Oranguru is a card we haven't talked about too much, but it's great because especially when you're searching your deck, it pretty much just acts as a once during your turn, you may draw a card. It's pretty much is what it is. If you've got cards you don't want, hey, I'll take a different card and I'll throw this one back into my deck. The way it works out is very interesting, and it is a colorless Pokemon. Maybe not the one Lucas would have liked to have in deck for this matchup, but hey, Trinity Charge is a good way to get some energies into play. You just got to be scared of the lines that Aidan has been able to show time and time again that there can be big knockouts. Could happen again.
Another beautiful sequence here, again, using that ability to put the card on top and then use Marnie to put the rest of the hand on the bottom, and you're going to get that card back right away. And so the duality of being able to employ the Oranguru's ability of the Primate Wisdom, putting that card either back into the deck to search it out later or to preserve it while you Marnie your opponent.
There is the Trinity Charge, not the Trinity Attack that Lucas really wanted to be using. Would rather deal some damage and do the same effect, but at this point, you got to do what you can at this point, at this position. Opting to attach an energy to the active, can still get 1 more out of the deck, but chooses to just end it there. Still has does not have access to Starbirth anymore, so may be sitting on some other powerful cards for the following turn. As Aidan, yeah, is in a position where, wow, excellent top deck, double Turbo Energy. The card is going to be needed, and you see it get thrown down right away because Arceus and Double Turbo Energy are like best buds for a turn.
So we're going to try, we need to get that Trinity off this turn, or are we going to have to take a turn off and just let this Rowlet be the sacrificial lamb? Do we have a way to switch this out at all?
Yeah, there's Scoop Up Net in the deck. There's plenty of ways to get this out. Drizzile can just...
It's just the one Bird Keeper, though, right?
There is Scoop Up Net in this deck as well. So it does have...
No, I mean, is there only one Bird Keeper? We're not going to see a repeat Wind Shard.
To attack with the Rowlet? No, it's just the one. Usually the Rowlet will lose its usage at this point.
Trinity Charge onto the Rowlet.
Listen. If it could be on anything, I'd like to see a manually powered up Wind Shard. That would be a dream of mine. At Worlds? Come on. I love that.
Trinity Charge onto the Rowlet. But again, just the heavy ball, looking in the prizes, getting a missing piece, no doubt. Another discard, getting rid of that fire energy. And again, we're just looking for another backup attacker that this Arceus V-Star can power up.
Yeah, I think just eyeing up the Zapdos, that's definitely the best one to grab. And the ability to play so many different energies in your deck means you can play a different amount of attackers. So that's why the different energy types are there for the first place.
And Aidan taking his time. You know, you think that the Zapdos is, a pretty obvious choice, but going to look through the deck first, finds that Shady Dealings Inteleon, gets the Professor's Research, and then a second card, maybe a Stadium. Nope, does have the Scoop Up Net. Going to move this Rowlet out of the active after all, Ethan, as you said. And so the Arceus V-Star is going to be able to come up here and Trinity Charge.
Yeah, Trinity Nova, the attack of choice. Do we see the cards necessary? Hasn't even played a supporter yet for turn? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, just has the still got the Professor's Research off the Shady Dealings Inteleon, thinking about maybe do I want to just see 7 different cards instead to find another attacker? And that might be the play. What else is even in the hand? I think there was just 2 or 3 more ball cards.
Yeah, it looks like we might be back on pace here. It looks like just potentially discussing something between the players. Want to always make sure the game state is correct and everything's here. Assuming things resume, though, we are in a really good spot with everything that's happening. Starbirth still has not been used. That double turbo energy was a big-time top deck because usually you'll just see Starbirth grab those cards anyways in the first place. Still has access to another Shady Dealings ability as well, I believe. Has used Scoop Up Net on one of these so far, or hasn't even used Scoop Up Net yet so far. This is turn number 3 of Aidan's game. And there it is, research. 7 cards. Do we see some of those pieces? Choice Belt Zigzagoon means a knockout on the Arceus V, and things will start just as they did game 1 for Aidan.
And 7 cards. I see an Energy Search, an Escape Rope. Still shuffling through. Doesn't seem like he found the
Does have
cards he needed.
Zapdos.
Zapdos, Cape of Toughness, okay.
Yeah, so the Starbirth can be used to grab the 2 pieces guaranteed. I think it's just more so Aidan really looking for a follow-up turn. Actually need to find one of the pieces. Need to find, there are so many to find. Choice Belt, Zigzagoon, Zapdos. If you find one of those, you can grab the other 2 with Starbirth, and there are plenty of outs, the Quick Ball and the Zapdos in play. And there it is, Headbutt Tantrum, followed up by Starbirth. I'm pretty positive this is just going to grab the Choice Belt.
Beautiful sequence here. And again, the deep access you have to your list with Starbirth, with the Intellion engine, means that you have to think about the game in a much more macro sense. You have this ability to find the pieces you need when you need them, while also solving the current board state at hand, having the right attacker of the right type, getting that preset up in Aidan's case. And here it is. Everything has come down as you predicted. The prophecy is true. The Choice Belt and the Scoop Up Net as well. Going to cycle that Drizzile a little bit more, finding the Quick Ball. Beautiful stuff. With this turn already sort of locked in, now the next step of the Ethan prophecy is preparing for the next turn.
Listen, this game is going to follow its own course from here. I've merely set the story so far. How this game will unfold from here, I will not be able to tell. I do like getting the cape down onto the Zapdos. That's a very strong play. Again, it prevents around Choice Belt plays with DTE. Starbirth has already been used, does still have access to some Shady Dealings plays. And this is where, when we get into these middle turns, Aidan is kind of following through the same script as game 1. Taking the knockout on turn 2, or turn 3 rather now, onto this Arceus, powering up the Zapdos pretty much until it can manually attack without the use of its ability. And from this point, Lucas knows that if the same script is followed as game 1, the result will be the same. Aidan will win this match. Lucas has to figure out, get the gears turning upstairs and really think, what can I do to change things? Drizzile, Shady Dealings, that's going to help start things off.
Yeah, Path of the Peak is eyeballed here. Double Turbo Energy also eyeballed. We saw earlier from the Trinity Nova, only the 1 energy was put on this Arceus V-Star because the Double Turbo was just going to shore that up. But it looks like Roxanne is also being found here. And because Aidan was able to get the Starbirth off already, the impact of the Path of the Peak is reduced. But as you said, you're still forcing your opponent to have that extra jump through the hoop sort of scenario of you need to find 1 more energy for the Zapdos before you can make use of its devastating power for this matchup. And I'm going to force you to do it with only 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, and this is all going to be possible if Lucas can find that double turbo energy to attack with this Arceus. Still has 3 in deck, seeing 6 cards, also has access to Primate Wisdom still, so essentially going to be able to look at 7 cards this turn. Inside, we've seen this time and time again, you do get the advantage of taking a knockout and slowing the setup up for Lucas, but at the same time, you got to think to yourself, how relevant was that extra prize? Was it worth me getting Roxanne this turn and now only having 2 cards in hand?
And sometimes if Roxanne can just buy 1 turn, 2 turns. That's all Arceus V-Star needs to get back into the game. The double turbo energy is found, so now we're back online for Lucas's side.
Yeah, this is a big-time find. Finds the double turbo energy and the quick ball to find a target to get powered up. And now we're in Lucas's game plan of power these Pokemon up and utilize the best supporter card in his deck, Sharon's Care.
Being able to scoop that up, punish Aidan for not being able to take those 1-turn knockouts. Also has the big charm, just messing with the math. I love this arms race, right? The big charm versus the choice belt versus the Zapdos trying to exploit weakness. Even without Dunsparce, Lucas shows no fear here in game number 3. 7 minutes still left on the clock, and these players are playing at a very, very nice clip.
And Aidan has to decide at this point. Well, always been slow rolling us. I have no clue what's in his hand yet, but here we go. Let's see the cards. Wow, finds the Drizzile and the Inteleon. That's two huge cards that will guarantee the Zapdos to be able to take a knockout onto this Arceus.
Yes. Roxanne cannot stop the Inteleon engine. Path to the Peak cannot stop it either. Aidan's looking through the deck, going to find the proper cards. Zeraora still also in there as another bonus attacker.
Listen, there's so many Pokemon that Aidan's playing that we haven't even seen come down. The Moltres V, the Galarian Moltres V rather, the Zeraora, we haven't even seen the Raikou come down as well. We barely saw the Charizard.
One big happy family. Having two electric attackers, that's because you know Aidan is expecting a lot more Palkia as well.
Aidan has definitely built this as like a toolbox style deck to have a lot of outs to a lot of different matchups. Pretty much saying, I'm not going to be extremely good into anything necessarily, but I want to take a lot of positive matchups against a lot of stuff. But Drizzile finding the training court, Fighting Instinct is back online, and more importantly, this can also bring back some energies potentially. But the Zapdos doesn't need it anymore. It can attack for a colorless less. We'll see how this plays out and resolves. But yeah, you were just making sure everything happens. But the main thing as well, the two grabs off of both cards is such a big deal because it means there's also follow-up for this turn and the following turn, because you can just not evolve either of these Drizziles or go for this Inteleon now. And at this point, then you put yourself in a position where Scoop Net just gives you so many outs the following turn. So I think Aidan understands, okay.
The boss's orders being grabbed again, already setting up to close out, get that final prize.
Yeah, the boss's orders is there as well. If there's a boss in the discard pile, it can be brought back with Pal Pad to increase the amounts. The outs there, Lucas can still Roxanne again. There is the potential to play Pal Pad plus Roxanne. So these are all things to think about. You really, if you're on Lucas, you haven't taken a single prize card yet. You are at a clean 6, just like you started. You've got to put some game plan together. When your opponent's down to a single prize card, there are so many outs that give them the game. In fact, this Zapdos, especially with the energy attached to it now from the training court, means that if it's not knocked out this turn, it will pretty much knock out anything in this deck except maybe something super rare like an Inteleon with a big charm. But even that is asking for a lot, and you're not doing much with it.
Beautiful. Training court finding that final energy, and there it is. Knows the boss's orders is in the hand from the Shady Dealings Inteleon, and that is going to be game number 3 going to Aidan. What a fantastic set going all the way to the 3rd game. Both players showcasing the most powerful aspects of what their decks can do, and it's a great way to maintain this flawless record. One more set win for Aidan to lock in day number 2.
It's a treat to see innovation on stream. We've seen a lot of Arceus decks and Palkia decks throughout this format and throughout our return so far into the Pokemon trading card game starting in March. But it's great when we get to see these special decks that players aren't expecting and that players have innovated to really prepare well up against the meta game. You've seen Aidan's thought through every single usage for each of these cards. The Moltres for the Dark Weak types, Electric types for the Palkia matchup, and the Fighting Zapdos, Galarian Zapdos for Arceus matchup. Very well played. One win away. Got to stay focused to get that out, but is feeling in a very comfortable spot.